There's only one thing you need to remember when it comes to kids and preparedness. Glow sticks. Thanks for watching. Hi diddly ho, Prepperinos. Happy National Preparedness Month and welcome to the 30 Days of Preparedness Collaboration. If you want to know some ways that you can make your kids or grandkids more ready for emergencies, then let's talk about things you can do to prepare before an emergency, how to respond during an emergency, and how to recover after an emergency. One really great example of how to familiarize your children with emergency response is by doing fire drills in your home. And you don't have to do this all at once. You can build up to a full fire drill. You can start by showing them what the smoke detector looks like and testing it so they can hear what it sounds like. They can even go to their rooms or to the kitchen or living room and you can push the button and they can hear what it sounds like wherever they are in the house. So they know if they're sleeping in the middle of the night and they hear that fire alarm, that's what it will sound like, and then you can start to talk through and walk through the response procedures. You can also do little bits of it like feeling the door to see whether or not it's hot and helping them understand when it's safe to open up their bedroom door. You should go over your family emergency plan and evacuation routes with your family. Your children can help you come up with an evacuation location outside your home. So if you need to evacuate and meet somewhere outside, if they come up with it, they're more likely to remember it. Just make sure it's somewhere safe and that you all agree on. Then write it in your family emergency plan. If you understand the emergency response procedures for different types of hazards, you can train to those and run little drills or exercises with your family. Make it a game, make it fun. Other ways we can reinforce learning about hazards and response to hazards is incorporating it in other things they're learning. If they're learning about clouds and cloud patterns, you can talk about severe weather and what a tornado warning would sound like, what to do in a tornado warning, what the difference between a watch and a warning is, and where in your home is your shelter location. That's something you can also put in your family emergency plan. Teaching them what to do with an earthquake, to drop, cover, and hold on. Just like we all learned when we were in school about if you catch on fire, to stop, drop, and roll. Things like that can be reinforced so that if there is a stressful situation, hopefully they're remembering it. But doing the drills and exercises are how you train them to do those actions. The words aren't enough. So if you can create a realistic scenario that's not going to promote fear or traumatize them, then you can run through a drill or an exercise with your children and help them to be more comfortable responding to those hazards. My children and I talk about hazards and emergencies all the time. It's what I do. So we have these conversations pretty frequently. But we also incorporate it into things that they're learning about. When they're learning about little principles of chemistry, then we can use that to show them effects on fire when they displace oxygen and how to put out a fire. All of the things that you do before an emergency will help them stay calm during an emergency. If they're familiar with the hazards they might face, the actions they should take, and have practiced it, that's less stress on them in the situation. Another thing you can do is prepare emergency supplies ahead of time. Each of your children, if they're able to carry it, should have an emergency kit. Otherwise, they should be incorporated in your emergency kit or family emergency kit. Every emergency kit should be portable, so you can move it if you need to evacuate. Things that you can put in your emergency kit are glow sticks. I wasn't joking. Another thing we do for light is we give each of our kids a book light that they keep at their beds. We just keep them charged regularly. We get the rechargeable book lights, and even if the power goes out, they each have essentially a flashlight next to their beds. In the emergency kits, we put snacks that they like, not just emergency food or other shelf-stable foods. We put the things they like as well. This is an important thing for a couple reasons. One, it makes things less foreign to them in the emergency. It gives them something that's comfortable and familiar. And two, Every 6 months or a year, when you're rotating through those supplies and replenishing them, nothing goes to waste because they'll eat them when you rotate through them. Another thing I like to do is to keep a few episodes of a show they like or a movie downloaded on a device. So on my phone, I try to use a streaming service and download one of their favorite shows. So if something happens and we don't have internet or cell phone signal, we've at least got some distraction. You want to involve your children in your preparedness process. You don't have to expose them to gory movies to help them understand that controlling serious bleeding is a priority. But you can involve them in the process and help them to basically become inoculated to some of that stress by following the right preparedness cycle procedure. You have a plan, organize and equip, train, exercise, evaluate and improve, and plan. Now, as you follow that in your preparedness cycle, you can include your kids through organic ways, like the things they're learning about at school, the situations that are happening in the world. And you don't focus on the things that make you fearful. Focus on the things that will increase confidence. Talk about their abilities or the equipment and supplies that you have in place, and show them how to use those things. Every once in a while, break out some glow sticks and let them play with them. If it's something they already have fun with, then when it's an emergency situation, it brings them back into the fun mode instead of the fear mode. If your family enjoys camping, that's a great time to practice using some of the tools and equipment that you have. When your kids are training and learning how to do new skills or emergency skills, they're really, really capable. A tourniquet, if you understand the basic principles, can be applied effectively by a child if it is a good piece of equipment. An improvised tourniquet takes much more understanding of the principles of bleeding control to make it effective. Teaching them about CPR even before they're strong enough to do CPR helps them to put a framework around these types of situations so they know what's happening, not just what they see, but what they've learned ahead of time. Teach your kids about skills, teach them how to do those skills, and then practice those skills. Help them understand the context of using those. It can be a long game too. You don't have to teach them everything all at once. During an emergency, you want to stay calm because your children will mirror your emotions. If you're panicked, they'll be panicked. But the same things apply to you as to your children. If you go through that preparedness cycle, if you are doing drills and exercises and understanding your response, and you're avoiding fear and not worrying about what the news is trying to tell you or scare you about, but you're just focusing on your family and your needs, then you're going to be more calm and confident as well. During the emergency, you can use things like games, toys, videos, candy as distractions or supplements to trying to keep your kids calm. Another thing that will help is your reassurance. And another thing on top of that is to give your kids some purpose. If you can give them a job to do, it will help them feel like they're in control of the situation versus being controlled by the situation. It's a really scary time to be taken out of your bed and moved to the basement because of a tornado warning. One of my children used to be terrified of tornadoes, and he still is. But when we get a tornado warning, something that helped us to keep him calm was having a movie on a device and having some candy available. We always keep a little bit of chocolate at the top of our emergency kit so that if we have a stressful situation, we can get everybody into our little shelter area, get them cozy, put on a show, eat some chocolate, and it becomes kind of a fun experience instead of a scary or traumatizing experience. You're going to have a lot of adrenaline going, and you may overpush yourself, and your kids are going to do the same thing. So make sure everybody is getting enough rest, enough nutrition, and enough hydration. After an emergency is the recovery stage. This can look different depending on the severity of the impact. If your neighborhood or your home are severely damaged, then recovery will take a bit longer. There are different parts of recovery. Some of it is the physical recovery. You have to rebuild, get things back to normal. Infrastructure may need to be restored. But there's also the emotional recovery. Response to traumatic events will look different for different people. Your kids, as well as yourself, may be feeling some impacts of this hazard. They might be missing sleep, not doing so well in school, having nightmares, crying, wetting the bed. All of these are not unusual responses to a traumatic situation. And emergencies of different kinds can create a response like that. Make sure that you are aware that changes might happen and reassure your kids that it's normal. Help your children know that they have you as a support, and also reach out to other people. You can find trusted family friends, religious leaders, or licensed therapists and counselors who can help you process through all of the emotions that you felt in a very scary or traumatic situation. Kids are really wonderful. They're really resilient, and they're really, really great at handling terrible situations until they're not. So even though kids can compensate for the physical or emotional stressors really well, there's a lot going on behind the scenes and under the surface. So don't just assume that because your kid is not demonstrating any of the stress responses that they are doing okay. You need to be proactive and make sure you're taking care of their physical and emotional needs before it gets to a point where it impacts them severely. And if it does impact them, those are normal responses, and you can get them some help and be a support for them. As you try to get back to normal, try to go above and beyond and get better than normal. Lessons learned from real emergencies are as valuable or more valuable than lessons you learn from doing drills and exercises. Make sure that you document the things that you learned and implement them into your family plan and your future training, so you can go back and re-implement it before an emergency happens again. Kids are great. They're so much fun, and they have such an intuitive grasp on what to do in emergencies. Make as much of it a game as possible. Help them understand the seriousness of life-threatening situations, but practice and train and have fun with it, because the more fun you can have with it, the less stressful the whole situation will be. And if you can reduce the stress ahead of time, there will be less stress during the actual emergency. If you want your own family emergency plan, I've got something for you. Click the link to my website, preparednessguy.com. Put in your email address and I'll send you an emergency plan template. Print it off and fill it out with your family. It will help you go through different types of hazards and what your initial response should be. You can map out your house and evacuation routes, put some communication information there on how to get a hold of your family members, your doctor, an out-of-town neighbor, put your shelter locations, your evacuation assembly areas. All of that can go into your plan, and you can use that plan as a script for your drills and exercises. You can go through each little aspect and practice them with your family so that they know what to do in an emergency.